Yeah, I usually tell a story, but I was thinking I'll tell a few short stories. A menagerie, if you will. Will you? Is menagerie an okay term? I just want to make sure you're comfortable. Until I was 4 years old, I had a Jamaican accent because the only person in the house that paid any attention to me was the nanny. Several years later, I was walking through my neighborhood with my new girlfriend, and we passed this elderly Mexican woman about 5 feet tall, bundled up. It was winter, pushing the grocery cart, and we exchanged pleasantries. Hello. And about half a block later, there's another, roughly 5 foot tall elderly Mexican woman bundled up with a grocery cart, and she's like, "Oh, hey, how are you?" I'm like, "Good, how are you?" And we keep walking, and about 5 minutes later, there's another about 5 foot tall elderly Mexican woman dressed and bundled up in winter clothes, pushing a grocery cart, and she's like, "Hey, it's getting warmer." I'm like, "I hope so." And the girlfriend was like, "Do you know all those women?" And I said, "I know one lives in my building, but I'm not sure which one, so I say hi to all of them because I don't want the one that is my neighbor to think I'm blowing her off." And the girl said, "That is the sweetest, most racist thing I've ever heard." A few days later, we were walking around again, as we're wont to do, and I'm talking about myself as usual, and suddenly out of nowhere she says, "Dildos." I'm like, "Excuse me?" And she points. We were walking past a kind of seedy sex shop, and right in the storefront window, among everything else, there's a kind of nondescript sign that just says "Dildos." And I was like, "Do you want to go in?" She's like, "I don't know if I want to buy a dildo at a place like that." I was like, "Well, at least they didn't spell dildos with an apostrophe S. So I would never buy dildos in a place like that." And then she was like, "What if it was like Dildo's House of Dildos?" And I was like, "Oh, like Jim Dildo owns the..." She's like, "Yeah, exactly." And I looked at her and I just realized how absolutely I am in love with that girl. That's the end of the first fugue. Last month, if you're a fan of this show, you know that I was supposed to be performing with the Dare to Be Stupid Dancers, which is a troupe of kind of morbidly obese kids who wear Hawaiian shirts and dance around to Weird Al Yankovic songs. After about 2 or 3 songs, they're usually just like giggling, rolling around on the floor. It's like really silly, and it's a lot of fun. But they're based in Plattsburgh, and they had a charter bus come down here, and they'd actually put these external foghorns on the side of the bus to blast Weird Al music on the highway, which is like pretty slick. And unfortunately, somewhere around the Catskills, the bus slid off the highway, flipped a few times, and caught on fire. And apparently, a few of the kids who didn't die instantly tried crawling their way out of the wreckage, and as one witness described it, it was like these little fireballs with Hawaiian shirts and little chubby arms and legs flailing around, screaming for their mothers. I still see it when I close my eyes. And the creepiest part is how the foghorns kept blaring "I Love Rocky Road." So, when my niece died on her 21st birthday, after a long discussion, we decided it was only appropriate that we bury her in clothes from Forever 21. And you don't really think about... I'm sorry, I'm a little choked up. really think about how much time goes into those little kind of details of a funeral. I remember at one of the Dare to Be Stupid Dancers funerals, they buried him in a tuxedo, like a little kid tuxedo, and I'm like, that, I don't know. I feel like the Hawaiian shirt probably would have been maybe inappropriate, but also what are you supposed to bury in his Little League uniform? It's like pretty cliche. Although my son's 7 years old, and if he died tomorrow, I'd probably bury him in a Little League uniform. And he hates baseball, I think. It's just you bury him in a little kid tuxedo. In like 10 years, there's a box on the ground with this little miniature skeleton wearing a tuxedo. It's like creepy. Much creepier than a little kid skeleton wearing a baseball uniform. And it's not like I sit around planning my son's funeral. It's just, you know, if something were to happen to him, I just don't want to make a hasty decision I'll regret the rest of my life. And I know he's only 7 years old, but I just don't understand why he always cries when I try to explain that to him. Did I forget one? I don't think I did, or I'm intentionally forgetting it. But I have one more that's, this is actually a true story, unfortunately. And I'm glad, are we streaming tonight? Because she might be watching, and it's probably better if she doesn't. So, this all, well, I don't know, okay. Recently my cat jumped out of the litter box and seemed really like flighty and hopping around, and I noticed that there was like a piece of dental floss like halfway coming out of his asshole. So I very gently held him down, and it came out smooth. The cat's fine. He's very confused by the experience, but it seemed fun. So I mentioned to my roommate, hey, you know, you should just be a little more careful with throwing out the floss in the bathroom because my cat got into the garbage apparently and ate some. And she felt so awful about it and blamed herself because she's under the impression that I don't floss. And the reason is that we had a conversation when I first moved in, and I explained that I never really got into flossing. Not like I didn't get into it, it's a hard habit to start, you know? And she explained the benefits of it, and I started stealing her floss, and I didn't tell her. But it could have been my floss that my cat ate. But I can't let her know that. I can't let her feel better about the fact that it might not have been her, because it's turned into this very convoluted lie. A few months after I started stealing her floss, at one point she made this comment. She's like, have you been using my floss? And I don't know what inspired me, but I lied to her face. I said, no. And then I even compounded it by saying, you know, maybe the amount of floss they say is in the container isn't really, I mean, who would ever really know? So I added that little extra detail and then cemented this lie into the landscape of our relationship. And at this point, the fact that I lied, it's not the floss, it's the lie. So I can't let her know that she might not be responsible for the floss that I pulled out of my cat's asshole. But I have this like fear that eventually this is gonna like keep steamrolling this web of lies into like her testifying under oath that, oh, there's no way Bill Chambers could be the killer because he doesn't floss. But, you know, I feel, and you know, she's gonna find out. And at one point I thought, like, maybe I should just start buying my own floss and put it in our communal medicine cabinet. But then I feel like she'd start noticing that her floss wasn't running out as fast. And I was just like, I don't even want to deal with that. So one day she'll probably figure it out, but maybe not. And I'm just not gonna tell her. And you know, we all have our crosses to bear. Thank you very much.